Hello buddy, Andy here again. Well, the roller coaster continues. You've seen the title of this particular video. Anybody who's watched the last two videos will know the story of my father and what was going on with him being in hospital. And the last particular video was called Life as a Roller Coaster. Now, I recorded that last Sunday morning after being out for a run, and if you saw that video, you'll know the tone of the particular video was that I thought, right, I'm going to grasp life and carry on with it and do what I can, try and be upbeat, and everything that comes with that, everything that I've sort of tried to preach in the past, as best as you can, grab things and run with them and make the best out of what you've got. Whilst that video was actually uploading, ironically enough, I received a phone call from my sister to inform me that my father had literally just died. That was about 11:25 on the Sunday morning, as you can imagine. My sister, who, ironically, I suppose, another irony, we didn't know she was going to see my father. I hadn't planned, nobody had planned to go and see him that particular morning. But she was on her way home. She'd stayed with my mother the previous night after all the stuff that had gone down the last couple of days. She'd stayed with her to be with her, and she just called the hospital and asked if she could go and see him outside of visiting hours. And yeah, and they said, yes, of course you can come up, because she was on her way home and we didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Apparently they told my father that my sister was going, and he'd been up, and they got him up and weighed him, I think that was the reason, and then they sort of put him back to bed, and he'd asked for his glasses because he knew that my sister was going. When my sister got there, he wasn't in a very good way, and I had a look at him, and literally she arrived, I think, within a few minutes of him actually dying. But she was there. There was somebody there. Now, this is something that obviously I've been preparing for in lots of ways. He would have been 93 years old today, would you believe? So maybe whether I should be doing this video today, I don't know. As I said, that roller coaster has taken some very big bumps, apart from the highs and the lows as well. There's been jolts sideways as well. But as I said with the other videos, I'm just doing this partly for myself, not to put this out there. I'm not going to allow comments or anything on this particular video, because I know what it's like. It's very hard to know what to say to anybody who's been through what I've been through. And I know lots of you, I'm not unique in this. So many people out there have been through this. I've had some great messages from people already. So if anybody does ever want to contact me, they know how they can do it in the usual sort of ways. But I won't allow it here because, no. I probably won't feel like answering the comments anyway, as you can imagine, as I haven't done for the other video. So, yes, I was half prepared for it. My father, as I said, would have been 93 years old today. But it doesn't matter how well prepared you are and how ill someone has been, or how much you've spent that last month that I've relayed. I'm not going to go through it all again. About, you were half expecting this all the time, especially when he had that sort of relapse, for want of a better expression, over the last couple of days when we thought he was coming home, when the roller coaster took that downward spiral again. We were halfway there. We were more or less expecting it to happen and wondering what the outcome would be, even if he was to live for much longer. What sort of quality of life would he have, and all those sort of problems and those fears that might bring as well, and the questions that would raise. But it never prepares you for that initial shock. Yes, you automatically snap into something else, and I've surprised myself, I think, with how I've held up and how I've done things. Maybe that's because there's so much to be done. I don't realise it, and I've never had any practice in this type of thing, of sorting these things out, quite thankfully, and you never know how you're going to react to this type of thing as well, because it's something that will come to everybody probably at some time in their life, but it's not something you can prepare for. You're never ready for it, are you? And maybe if someone has been there, maybe they can contact me and tell me how they got through it as well, and how it affected them, and maybe how long in the future that sort of bump is going to come, should we say. I half expect to sort of collapse into a gibbering wreck on the floor at some time in the very near future. Maybe that time will come, maybe it won't, maybe I shall deal with it in other ways. But you snap into things and you get into it. What we did initially, the first decision was how do we tell my mother? She doesn't know for a start, and then what do we do? My sister was obviously upset. I totally understand that, having been there at the time it happened. But as I said, I personally think that was a good thing, and I think thinking back and looking back, she realises it was a good thing as well. He didn't die alone. He lived a long, happy, fruitful, and very eventful life as well. And the more you find out about things, my this is going to be completely jumbled, this video. I'm just going to jump around all over the place. But throughout the course of the past week, obviously we've been holding discussions, and my mother and my sister have found out so much about what my father did and what his life was like, because of the information that I got through the family history interest that I've had. And I've spoken to him throughout the past however many years and got him to write things down and try to coax things out of him. And I've got that history now, things that will come out at the funeral service, things that I might be able to relay myself if I have the nerve to stand up, if I can hold it together to stand up there and say certain things. Someone else can do it for me otherwise. His service during the Second World War, and he was there at 3 of the sort of pivotal points of the First World War. He was there at the beginning of the Blitz in London, he was there at Al Alamein in North Africa, and he was in London on VE Day, in Victory in Europe Day in 1945. I mean, that's pretty good to me. That's quite a life in itself, apart from the other things, which I may well come out, because I know that quite probably a lot of other videos will come out of this, because the things that I'm thinking about and things that have come out and aspects of it that whether people would like to hear, or whether I just feel that I need to share, I don't know, because as I've said all the way along, that's what blogging's about. It's getting things out there. If people don't like what they're watching, they can always turn off, but it's that sort of cathartic thing for me as well. But as with that, you have that sort of obvious down then. Oh, your father's died, and you're thinking, although, as I said, you're prepared for it, you're never quite sure what you're going to feel, because the thing that's got me the most, I think, and I suppose whether you prepare for it or not, is that feeling that you're never going to see them again. That, for me, is the hardest part, especially when you look around at all the photos that inevitably you're looking at, all those documents and that you've gone through. You're going through all those things in the house, helping your mother and your sister sort all these things out, all those personal effects that sort of bring things home to you. Sometimes they bring out some of those stories that you haven't heard about. I've heard things myself this week that I didn't know about. A great story about Brian Epstein from the Beatles manager, and my father, which there's a Beatles connection in everything I do in my life, or so it seems, and there's even one there as well. one of the least expected outcome, or places that I ever expected to find one. But there's some good that comes out because you learn so much about it. You can celebrate someone's life. As I said, he lived a long, happy life. He was in no pain at the end, and that's good. He was mentally with it as best as he could be. Even right towards the end, he knew my sister was there as well. And as I said, he didn't die alone. That's something I am very grateful for, and I'd like to think that that's something that will happen to me as well. I won't be alone. I'll live a long life. I'll live a happy and eventful life, and I won't be in any pain. I don't think you can ask a great deal more. So, although any death is sad, doesn't matter who they are, but especially when it's one of your parents, and it's the first parent of mine, thankfully, that has died. Never had someone quite as close to me as this die. It is a shock, but you can look at it not in a positive way, but you can sort of celebrate that life and take some comfort from all that life has given you as well, because obviously the life gives you a lot as well. I wouldn't be here, obviously, without him. I wouldn't be who I am without him. I look very much like him. I'm about the same height, the same build, and I even found out this week I take the same size shoes as he did as well. So, like father, like son, maybe. And so that's about it. That's all I can say at the moment. Thanks, as I said, for all those people who have contacted me already. I did tell a couple of online people because I knew I wouldn't be around for a while. I have poked in and watched a few videos here and there when I've been able to. But as I said, even this, just thought of something else, even this week, we thought that on the Monday we would get everything sorted out, the funeral would be sorted out and everything like that. But because my father was discharged briefly and then went back into hospital, the doctors couldn't decide on the cause of death, and so they had to call the coroner in. Whether you have that where you are, I don't know, but ultimately it means that they had to do a post-mortem, an autopsy, to determine the correct cause of death, because a death certificate being a legal document, they have to be careful about what they put there. Thankfully, I suppose, for us, it just showed that effectively it was just his heart that gave out, which we knew was an issue anyway. It's why his blood pressure was low, it's why he was breathless at times as well, because his heart wasn't working as well as it had. When the heart's been pumping for very close to 93 years, it's not surprising that it starts to get a little tired, is it? So there you go. So that's delayed things, and it's literally only today, the Friday, sort of 5-6 days after the death, that we've finally sorted just about everything out. Unfortunately, now the funeral isn't for another week and a half, because January is a very cruel month when it comes to deaths. I've seen other videos this week of people talking about other people's deaths as well. My mother spoke to somebody the other day to inform them of my father's death, and even then they said, "Oh, this is the third one we've heard about in literally 2 days." And unfortunately, one of those was a 2-year-old child. That is tragic. And as I said, January is a very cruel month. Talking to the funeral director yesterday, and she was saying that it is always a very busy time. People seem to hang on for Christmas. And my father was in hospital for 4 or 5 weeks right over the Christmas period. Maybe there was an element of that. Maybe he was hanging on himself, I don't know, to get through to the new year or something. And maybe he was hanging on for that little bit longer on the Sunday so that he could see my daughter for the last time. I keep saying that, my sister, for the last time. So, as I said, I'm grateful in that respect, that for his life and for what he gave to us, but for what he lived as well. I think that he had a good life. Maybe I can share bits of it in the future, but one thing I am very glad of, and one thing I would say to anybody out there, if your parents that you've got, no matter how old they are, if they've got life experiences, learn about them, because you never know when that life will be cut short, whether they're 92 years old or whether they're 45 or 51 years old like myself. You never know when that day might come, and you will really kick yourself if you don't know the history, if you don't know what your parents did or what they've achieved throughout their lives, because everybody achieves something. Some obviously naturally more than others, but I am so glad and so pleased that I found out what I found out about my father's life, and I know so many other people are so interested in it. My mother, my sister, even friends of the family, my family, we've been talking about it here in the house as well, reminiscing, and I know it would sort of surprise people. I made a video some time ago about going to funerals and how we learn about someone's life so often just at the funeral. Let's try and learn about someone's life beforehand. That's one good thing about this. We're talking about things, getting things out there. Tell your life story, because it's recorded for posterity if you want it for that, and for anybody else who might be interested. So there you go. I'm going to leave it there. As I said, I may well post some more videos. I'd like to think that I'm going to try and bounce back and get back into things, but there's been sort of, the roller coaster continues. Hopefully we're over the worst of it now. We've just got to hang on as a family until the funeral itself, a week on Wednesday, which won't be a good day. And wouldn't you know it, when we went yesterday to try and book the funeral, the first date they gave me was the date of my mother's birthday. Which I just knew that was going to happen. My mother hadn't foreseen that, but I knew that they would say February the 2nd, which is my mother's birthday. We've changed it to the 3rd, but that will still be a strange day. Today's been a strange day. It's been a strange week, as you can imagine. But there you go. I'm going to leave it there. As I said, if anybody does want to contact me for any particular reason, you can do it through private messages, or if you've got my email or whatever. But I won't be putting comments up there. I'm sure you understand that. Anyway, thanks to you all, and thanks for your support through the comments on the last video and the past couple of videos. They have meant a lot. I have been reading them, and they do mean something, and there's been some very nice ones there, and I do appreciate all the nice comments and words of support that I've had, even up until this time. Obviously the outcome isn't what I wanted, and it isn't the outcome that a lot of you wanted to see there as well and wished for, but that's life, that's death, that's the way that things go. I'm afraid it comes to us all in the end. But as I said, I'm thankful he lived a long, happy, fruitful, eventful life. He didn't die alone, he didn't die in pain, and to me there's something to be said for that. If only I can go the same way. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.